even when you lost. There's always a hope. Rise and fight.
Ultra going up against Zhanhun, and yeah, I gotta say, I'm a little bit worried about Ultra's chances, particularly because even in the previous matches, even though he was victorious over Squall, it just feels like there were little critical errors here and there, and he's not playing up to his best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think the last couple of games were too much of like confidence boosters, I would say. But we'll have to see, and especially after his first game against Bonnet, he is looking a bit, just not quite as solid as you would expect. So that being said, he can bring it all back together. And against Zhanhun, of course, there is that unknown factor for both players. I mean, I think Zhanhun kind of luckily has seen more of Ultra since he saw him play TVP against Bonnet. But we'll have to see, man. I mean, I don't know. What do you expect here?
I have no idea what to... This is one of those matchups, actually, where I wasn't able to study up on Ultra as much as I wanted to, and I wasn't able to find anything as far as Zhanhun's PVT. And so I'm actually kind of curious to see his PVT in particular and see if he has anything intricate, especially because coming out of the Chinese region, it almost feels like they bring either new meta or off meta or like something interesting. And I know that you have like Mihu out there, so I'm almost wondering, and it almost feels like they're reacting to like a different, because it is a different pool of players. It like ends up being something either half a step ahead or just completely off on a different branch. And I think that's part of what the Chinese players add, actually, is just kind of a different perspective on the game as a whole. Which
no, you're totally right. I mean, that's what ends up happening, right? When you have like a group of players playing together in kind of isolation, they develop their own metas. But and the Chinese players in general are really strong, regardless. So definitely have that element of surprise, more so than, well, foreign players too have their own, like they have their own like very unique style. So I think for the Chinese players, it's going to be very hard for them to adapt as well. Butter is going to be the map here to start off this elimination best of 3 last chance match. So let's get into it. Ultra versus Zhanhun.
So in the upper right-hand corner, as the red Terran, we have Ultra.
And in the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, is Zhanhun.
So you love Butter. That seems to be like the map you really, really enjoy. What are the build order? What would you do if you were Ultra going up against Zhanhun? Would you just go for a safe factory expand or something a little bit more, I don't know, aggressive or interesting?
Yeah, I mean, out of the new maps, again, Butter is just awesome. I don't know, I find 2-player maps really interesting, right? And like whenever we have like these new 2-player maps that are maybe more like balanced, and I mean, look at Eclipse, just an incredible map. And again, out of all the maps that have been released this season, especially the BSL ones, this is the one I'm most excited about. But as far as what I would do, I mean, that's for me to know.
I gotta hide the tactics, particularly because you go.
I mean,
down the line. Don't want to reveal anything. I get it.
As Terran, suffice it to say, Terran is the race where you really need to be solid, all around. It's not really a race of deception. It's not really a race of mix-ups, although you can certainly throw them in. Most important part is to just have build orders that don't have hiccups. Just don't lose SCVs. Just get your timing, your expansions on time. Don't do anything too crazy. And part of that also involves like kind of squeezing out expansions as fast as you can. So for example, we've seen Ultra so far today in both his TVP and his TVZ. TVP against Bonnet, he played hyper defensively, got that triple depot expansion going. Again, versus Squall, got that triple depot play going as well. And that's just a bit slow, you know? And against someone of Zhanhun's caliber, I think just needs to make sure he gets as fast as possible of a command center, unless he's trying to cheese, and just kind of just accelerate his build. Just do it as solidly as possible. That's what I would be doing.
Looks like he's opening up with that factory. He's got the 2 depot alongside the bunker, or alongside the bunker, alongside the barracks, just in case there was early zealot pressure, but there is no early zealot pressure. It looks like we saw 1 gate into, actually able to block out the probe scout. So on a 2-player map, because of it very late, but it was 1 gate into cybernetics core. It looks like range is being upgraded, but right now, yeah, information being denied.
Yeah, I mean, so far it is very standard here. One thing that Terran can do in this situation is keep the SCV inside the main, but chose to kind of run it away to rescout, and that's forcing Ultra to make these 3 Marines. And honestly, if Ultra gets a 3rd depot here, I think it would be kind of disastrous for him once again, because it's really unnecessary. But he saw there was no Zealot with his initial SCV. So, oh, is that a depot build? Oh yeah, it's another depot, man. I'm telling you, this depot is just unnecessary. These 3 Marines are more than enough, and he's getting the bunker as well. Diggity, this command center is being delayed by like a whole like 30 seconds unnecessarily, and that's always going to be nice for Protoss.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go ahead and drop his Nexus upon seeing the bunker being placed, and yeah, in a nice solid economic position right off the bat.
Wait, okay, gets the command center. I think he's cutting SCVs for this, but you know, command center timing is all right, but won't have those vultures out on the map. Protoss, of course, opening very standardly. These days, you don't see too. I would say Dragoon expanding on a 2-player map is about as weak of an opener as you can do, because the Dragoon expand kind of really has fallen out of fashion. It's easy for Terran to get an accelerated command center and be totally safe against it. Now this game, Ultra kind of didn't, so he's a bit at a disadvantage. But, you know, this situation, Zhanhun's gonna work on this bunker. There's no scouting info for Terran from this point on. And the robotics coming here.
Yeah, so going 1 great. Looks like he's going to add a 2nd gateway right after the robotics facility as that natural expansion is coming online. And an engineering bay in the background there for Ultra. As the machine shop whirling, still waiting on siege tanks. The Dragoons poking away at this as they can. He needs to babysit that siege tanks, because it's not it's a decent sized Dragoon count, but still capable of picking off the siege tank if he doesn't babysit it. But yeah, in the meantime, it looks like just very standard, you know, the opening play. It looks like the probes already being transferred to that natural expansion. A little bit of an economic lead for Zhanhun, but I wouldn't say it's insurmountable. Things looking pretty decent on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, Zhanhun he didn't go for fast Nexus, you know, he didn't go for kind of a range skip Nexus. He has 4 Dragoons out really early, so that to me indicates that the gateway has been pumping non-stop. So this Nexus also could have been a bit faster. But, you know, overall, I think this is a good position for Protoss to be in, mostly because Terran kind of opened up with these tanks, has no position on the map, like with vultures. Generally, you need vultures to like lay mines and check for expansions. But in this situation, Zhanhun can kind of just take his 3rd base for free. It doesn't have to get an observer out, doesn't have to clear mines. And so this Nexus, as a result, is going to be a bit faster than usual. And, I mean, again, the Terran's command center isn't as fast as possible, so these small incremental advantages are going to start adding up. Now, I am curious as to what Ultra's follow-up is going to be this particular game. We saw against Bonneth, he went for that blind 5-fact because, you know, he was trying to counter a carrier build. But in this game, he's going for an armory, still on 1 factory. I wonder if he is going to try and play kind of more of a 3-base upgrade style, or if he's going to go for a 2-base all-in.
That was actually my thought, seeing just a single factory at this stage of the match, is that maybe he's just going to go for, so never mind, looks like he plopped down an additional factory right there, and he's starting to line the corners with turrets. The other thing I liked about Zhanhun's play here is he's had those Dragoons pressed up near that natural expansion this entire time, just in case vultures were going to sneak out, and that's allowed him to have a lot of map control and allowed him to feel very, very comfortable grabbing this 3rd. Hopefully he doesn't. Yeah, just able to move that observer across the edge, and he's getting all sorts of scouting information, including the factory count here in the mid game.
Yeah, I mean, when you scout kind of this factory expand that Terran did with the siege behind it, and no vulture presence whatsoever, and I think he also saw the double tank at the front, you can quickly eliminate starport play as well. So there's not going to be vultures out on the map. There's also not going to be a dropship coming into your main, you know, and that depends on how quickly Protoss can kind of process all that information. That's why I think he has still a decent amount of goons at the front there, you know, in the middle of the map, and that's giving him a lot more map control than you normally would have. You know, at some point in PvT, you kind of have to retreat those dragoons to just make sure that you can transfer these probes safely, to make sure that you can even take a third base, or to make sure you're not dying to a drop. So just again, whenever Protoss can expand easily like this off 3 base with no early game contesting from the Terran player, it's really great, right? I mean, Protoss is in a fantastic position.
Adding up a little bit of freeze here. Hopefully it adjusts as we go. But yeah, I actually almost feel like the Dragoon count's even pretty small. It's been able to be pretty small just because there's been absolutely no threat whatsoever from Ultra on the map thus far. Ultra does have his armory down. He's got the 1 armory to potentially go to +1 weapons. He's got a lot of siege tanks out there. And is he going to move out with this? Looks like he's
he's just gonna expand here and
grab that third.
Yeah, here's one thing that, you know, I haven't been watching too many pro games recently, and I think it's also because this map is new, but on Butter, as Terran at least, it's not quite clear which way you want to expand. Do you want to take this base here, this third base at the top left where Ultra is going, or do you want to take the one that's closer to your main? And I think this is the type of answer or question that gets answered progressively as the map is played more and more and more. But at the early stages of this map being out, no one quite knows, right? So that's what's interesting about these new maps, is you're just not quite sure exactly kind of not just the build orders, but kind of the pathing, like which way do you need to secure, like which pathways are the most important, blah blah blah. Looks like this Reaver though coming in,
able to at least delay that third. Yeah, a bunch of Dragoons moving in there, and is this going to force a cancellation? Is the question. That's a lot of damage rapidly from these ults and these Dragoons, the siege tanks. Yeah, that's going to delay. So I think that was a cancellation, but that is going to delay that command center greatly. And if you're in an economic race, which Ultra is right now, that is disastrous. Immediately plopping down several factories, but I don't know. I think Zhanhun's definitely going to know what to expect immediately after this, and he's in a firm position to deal with it.
Yeah, the starport's actually quite late, and you know, generally the starport would be finished now because he should be starting the upgrades. But yeah, and these factories are too late. They're not timing-based factories. They're like you know, he was kind of building those factories as the third base was finishing. And this is why against shuttle play, you just never want to take your command center. You never want to build it on location. If you end up building your command center on location, it's a massive, massive advantage. But this shuttle actually go down. No, it's one hit away. But the Reaver does go down importantly. So, and also that shuttle being low means it'll have limited efficacy with the, you know, follow-up usage of it. So, but yeah, I mean, Terran's in a terrible spot. I mean, canceling that command center is awful. It's always an awful feeling, and his upgrades are a bit late.
And in the meantime, also, Zhanhun is going to go ahead and he's going to, you know, when you're ahead, get further ahead. He's grabbed these slow vultures moving across the map. Maybe they can get something done. At least maybe they can scout the fourth base as it's coming online. Probes are transferring there. There is a forge in the background to potentially put cannons at that far location. There's plenty of pylons and dragoons in the way to deal with those vultures coming across. But they're going to catch some probes in transfer. So I thought that was a full grouping moving to, but instead able to at least pick off 3. Still might be able to empty this otherwise under cannon fire.
Yeah, this is a good move from Ultra, and a bit of a slip up from Zhanhun to not be escorting those probes. But at the same time, those cannons, he knew those cannons were going to finish, and also only lost a couple of probes. You know, in this matchup, it really is expected for Protoss to lose a couple probes in the mid game to Ultra harass. So not really the biggest disaster. 4 bases here for Zhanhun. I do wonder what his tech is. Stargate just now starting is only on the 1 robotics, so his build is quite interesting. He did go into Templars. He has shuttle speed. He has a second shuttle at his nat. So he's going to play a bit more of an aggressive style, but it's not that double robo style, and he hasn't really gone for storm drops. Here comes a drop from Terran. The cannon is in position, but there's a blind spot here, and that's going to do a decent amount of damage, just, you know, preventing mining for a long time. I'm not even sure if the Zells are going to trickle in, but, you know, Ultra loads up and leaves.
Looks like, yeah, that SimCity is actually working against Zhanhun in this position. He's got, and also there's the scouting information. He's able to see the Stargate when it's finishing. Dragoons moving mid-map, cutting off some vultures right there. But that's going to be annoying. So Ultra doing a pretty good job to try to sneak back into this. But Zhanhun looks like he wants to well, he's moving up as though he wanted to get aggressive against this into a big tank line. He's moving all sorts of Dragoons and Zealots midfield. His positioning forward is, this is getting scouted and is also simultaneously cutting off the vultures as they're moving into mid position. And in the meantime, that 3 o'clock nexus is being grabbed by Zhanhun. So going up to 5 base now.
Yeah, generally this is around the time where Protoss is starting to mass expand as well, has, you know, their gate count up, has their tech, got that 4th base, now can get the 5th base. There is no cannon at the natural, so this drop might still find, this drop is actually being extremely annoying, and, you know, Zhanhun definitely should deal with this at some point, but his cannon positioning isn't quite optimal. He's just gonna go for a bust, but I don't think this is the right decision here. That's just so much Terran supply. Double shuttle, really it's gonna be up to these storms and whether or not Ultra can snipe the Templar before they shoot. One Reaver is unloaded. Where are all the vultures? Oh, storm, massive storm on top of 4 tanks, and so many tanks to the left side here, not in position. D-Matrix is on point, but somehow Zhanhun makes this work. There just quite wasn't enough supply there for Terran. That was a really good trade for Protoss, even though the attack does get stopped. That was a really good trade. Killed so many tanks, and it's always good for Protoss to just kind of trade supply in this situation.
Yeah, especially when Ultra wants to sit back and play 3 bases, try to max out and hit the upgrades, and play the game from there. If you can just wipe out your mech army and make your Terran opponent feel vulnerable, especially when they're already spread thin, to try to defend the 3rd, yeah, you're in a great position. Already transitioning into Arbiter play. I don't see I'm wondering if that dropship got cleaned up finally in that bottom right-hand base. Ultra getting a good value. No, it's still alive. Getting good value out of it. It's still floating around being annoying. Wow, getting a lot of value out of that. But yeah, the supply lead, even though it's fuzzy, looks like it's significantly in Zhanhun's favor. He's got a big economy to roll with. Definitely has an economic advantage. And even though I was a little bit, I was concerned about that attack, to be honest, but it looked like Ultra just wasn't sieged, wasn't in position to quite deal with it. And as a result, an army getting wiped out.
Yeah, but to be completely fair here, I think Terran's actually in a decent position because there hasn't been any storm, like the economy has been untouched. So sure, the trades sometimes are quite poor for Terran, but at the same time, if you just never get your SCVs killed and you're kind of slowly building up to, you know, 3-2, 9 factories, you can afford to take army trades. And especially if you have a dropship kind of being such a nuisance in Protoss's main, and especially if Protoss's Arbiter tech or Carrier tech or whatever kind of endgame Stargate units is delayed. Now Arbiter's finally out. That's going to be 2 Stargate Arbiters, so interesting decision. Generally, you know, I mean, double Stargate generally means you're not going to opt for as many Templar, and it doesn't seem like Zhanhun's playing, you know, building too many more Templar here. But I think there's still a good chance here for Ultra. The problem for Terran at this point is securing a 4th base. If he can secure a 4th base in a reasonable amount of time, he will be in a decent spot. But here comes Protoss.
Yeah, Zhanhun actually pivoting to the left, forcing an unsiege and resiege position. Dragoons flooding in from the north, so it's attacks coming from multiple directions. The vultures are able to sneak in. The Dragoons working on the siege tanks to the north. Psystorm cleaning out the vultures in between. D-Matrix on that forward siege tank. This is cutting off the 3rd of Ultra from the rest of his army, and it looks like that's going to take fire and potentially get wiped out.
Yeah, and this 3rd is going to be forced to lift off, and I don't think that you know, Ultra has quite the supply to make any kind of counterplay, and I think this is why perhaps this base isn't the best to take. It just seems so far out of the way. I think the base that's closer to his main base at the mid right there is probably a bit easier to defend, but also that means that taking the 4th base is a bit harder. I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, but at this point Protoss just in such a massive lead. Like you can see the bank I mean, again, it's so fuzzy for us, but that looks like a lot of minerals and a lot of gas for Protoss. I think he's got like 4K minerals, and Ultra is going to look for a desperate push attempt here. Not quite sure what his upgrades are, but he just has such little supply.
Yeah, he's grouped up. He's got a low supply count. He's also going, I'm not sure how much energy is going to be in the Arbiters or any High Templar that are latently left around, but going to just go for it. Pushing in, it looks like he's catching some High Templar on the ground. The Arbiter going for a recall in the meantime. I'm not sure this is the best timing, considering Ultra was basically going all in to attack his main. So it's going to be Dragoons that are on the front to provide support for the defense effort. But now, Ultra regathering and just diving in, half sieged, half not. And this attack force looks like it's going to get cleaned up, but still going to be a GG overall, just with that recall in the main being so far economically behind it, and with the resupply of the gateway units, he was going to be able to clean up that army as it was moving in. So first game goes to Zhanhun, and Ultra dropping the first match.
Yeah, Zhanhun just playing that very cleanly. Can't really say too much about his play, just kind of solidly winning there. I think Ultra's build order not really giving him any kind of advantage whatsoever, and that's fine as Terran. You don't really need to have an advantage early on, but that just looked like, I don't know, a lot of TVPs, where Terran just doesn't really end up doing anything, and it just sits there and kind of gets pummeled until they lose. And that's generally kind of a syndrome of just not doing enough with your build order, and when Protoss can kind of safely take a third base, safely take a fourth base, kind of move their army wherever they want, they're never really pressured, and Terran's just slowly taking bases. And we saw, I mean, the big thing was the third base was also delayed. It just wasn't the best game there for Terran, that's for sure.
I really love the positioning from Zhanhun, especially when he did kind of the double prong, moved his Dragoons up to the north, showed that he was moving the Dragoons up to the north, and then just had the presence of mind to know that was going to cause an unsiege, resiege, and put Ultra out of position, and then just the double pivot. That was really, I think he would have won that engagement regardless, just because he had such a large supply lead, but having that nice little touch on top of it was just really nice to see. And so, I'm curious what Ultra's going to pick for map 2, especially in this, and if he's going to try more of the same, if he's going to try to go for that 3-base style. Zhanhun showing that he's very capable of pressuring that third and taking it out, and that seems to be like his, and that's very standard Protoss play, is get up, get the economic lead, get where you're in a position where delay or annihilate that third, and play from there.
Yeah, I mean, Zhanhun just played very solidly. There's just very solid PvT, and to be honest, that's kind of what I expect from the Chinese players. I think overall, they are just very solid players. And Zhanhun in this particular game, I think the opening was again, in my opinion, I think opening with Dragoon expand on a 2-player map is quite an outdated way of playing. I don't think it's up to the most current of meta, but some Protosses, even Korean Protosses, can sometimes favor. It just depends how comfortable they are. But outside of that, I mean, he just played really solidly, it was just solid, man. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And it's up to Ultra to kind of play to that level himself and kind of just tidy up his build order and kind of just play a bit better in the subsequent games.
What I'd like to see is some more of that hero dropship play. That dropship was alive.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about silver linings here. That dropship was alive for absolutely forever in that base.
Well, I mean, the dropship worked beautifully, but, specifically against the type of build that Zhanhun was doing, when Protoss plays very aggressively and they delay their Nexus, because that game, the Nexus was delayed. I mean, he was just kind of pumping Dragoons out and pressuring the front. It is a bit harder to go for the dropship play right away. But yeah, I mean, Ultra just didn't have any kind of counterplay in the mid game at all whatsoever. Just, Protoss was completely uncontested, and it makes playing PvT so much easier when that's the case.
Yeah, that was actually, if I was going to have one big level in criticism at Ultra, it's just that he let Zhanhun do whatever he wanted. In the meantime, it looks like we're going to go to good night for game 2, Ultra's tournament life on the line. And Zhanhun looking to advance to the round of 16. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, we have Zhanhun starting as the blue Protoss.
And in the upper right, it is Ultra in the red Terran.
And this is on Good Night.
Yeah.
Actually, I really love Good Night, actually. I think it's one of my favorite maps to see, and across all matchups, really. Just really solid, nice macro map.
Yeah, it's an interesting map. I gotta agree with you. I like it as well, but it has these features that make it just slightly not as stereotypical of a 4-player map as you're used to. If you're comparing it to like a Circuit Breaker, like a Fighting Spirit, like a lot of these maps, they kind of all converge towards the middle. But Good Night has this like kind of outer perimeter that, I mean, it just has so much more movement than most maps, right? And you have
those fights over the 6 o'clock or I guess 12 o'clock location here where you have like that barrel. And what I find interesting in particular about Good Night is oftentimes you can have engagements where you can just sit up on the high ground and force your opponent to come to you. Which is one of the reasons I just find, and you're right, that's exactly what it is it's usually you'll see like big midfield engagements on 4-player maps like this, but because of the architecture of Good Night, it feels like a lot of the attacking and a lot of the maneuvering comes along the peripheral.
No, totally. That is actually what is so defining about this map, especially when you, because again, most 4-player maps, like even if you think about like Shakura's Plateau or something, like these 4-player maps, they usually all funnel into the middle of the map, and this one has just enough mobility where there's a bit more happening, and generally that is to the detriment of Terran. Terran likes it. Like Terran likes it when it's like Terran just like these easy maps. Like, let's not get it, mistaken. Like whenever there's a easy like 4-player map, you kind of just slam your units into the middle of the map. You don't really have to worry too much about flanks and whatever. Terran feels very comfortable in that. But once there's a bit more mobility going on the map, it can be a bit difficult. And that's also why this map is a bit hard for Protoss versus Zerg. Zerg has so many paths to come in and kind of attack, especially the third base of Protoss. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think, especially in these positions, these are pretty decently playable positions for Terran. You can see it's going to be easy for Terran to take the mineral only, but the 4th base is always going to be a question mark. Do you expand to mid-right and kind of open yourself up totally, or do you take the aggressive approach and kind of push Protoss and expand behind it at the 12 o'clock? But we'll even see. I mean, Ultra, after last game, I don't know how he's going to be feeling, Diggity, because he tried going for a macro game and got completely picked apart. So I don't know if he's going to try and go for something like a 2-base timing this time around.
Meantime, it looks like he went 1 Rax into expansion, built the Marine afterwards, and the Zealot marching its way across the map. So Bunker is going up. There's going to be, 2 Marines on defense here against this Zealot, and there's already a weakened SCV at that working on that command center. Let's see if it angles in and is able to delay that command center a bit. Looks like no, instead it's going to march right into the main and turn around. But yeah, it's still got an even shot to potentially get an SCV kill pretty easily here because of the work that Probe did earlier.
Yeah, but the Bunker is finished, and the Zealot is going to run up the ramp. But, I think Ultra can't lose this Marine, though. Ultra's going to have a good response to this, and really behind this, getting the command center. I mean, look, there's no Nexus in sight. This is a really, really, really good start from Terran, but that's a proxy robo.
So I was going to say I'm a little bit disappointed in the micro of that Zealot and the fact that it wasn't able to accomplish more. We have a factory building, but yeah, proxy robo in the meantime, which means we're going to have very early aggression and some form of, we'll see if is it going to be elevator, is it going to be DTs, is it going to just be, but that's let's see if this ends up getting scouted in the meantime.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a perfect response here from Zhanhun against something like a Rax expand. Just the factory comes so late here, and there's so much time for the Reaver to be built. But at the same time, I mean, looking at this, I'm not quite sure it's going to be very close. It is very hard to defend this as Terran, though.
It's going to be challenging to defend, and there were obviously the delays. There's also, I think the range is going to be, finished, and it's going to cause 2 more SCVs need to be pulled off the line to help defend that. The SCV looks like, I'm looking on the mini-map, completely ended around all of that proxy. The Dragoon trying to chase that down, actually misfiring up the ramp. And now, might be able to move in, sees no natural expansion, has to know something's up. We'll see how he can, with this information, how Ultra will respond.
Yeah, well, there's no expansion, so it's a 1 base. He's going to put down an E-Bay. and he's going to start tanks in siege mode. But against this, he's gonna also have to start making some Marines, because the shuttle, whether it goes, Zhanhun might go for a shuttle straight away to try and elevator some goons inside the main, which, yeah, that's exactly what he's gonna do. And you have to defend this very calmly. You have to use, pull your SCVs, make sure you don't lose a tank. But the Rax isn't blinking, and that's definitely a mistake. When you're getting all in like this one base, you really have to start just making units out of every single building that you have, and I don't think anything's going to stop these 4 goons.
4 goons are moving in right as that siege tank is making its way down to the natural expansion. That siege tank's got to feel not long for life. Working on the machine shop to make sure that siege tank doesn't finish. The siege tank making its way back up. The SCVs making their way as well, trying to box these dragoons out. Doing a good job of doing that thus far. An SCV looks like it's repairing that machine shop in the meantime, but that bunker is taking fire in the meantime on the front door, so that might open things up. All of the SCVs transferring. The bunker goes down, so the dragoons are being pushed back by the SCVs, but the Marines are dying on the front.
Yeah, I mean, this position's going to crumble without that bunker holding the front. There is siege mode ready, but I mean, the Reaver is out as well. Shuttle is going to pick that up momentarily. There's not really enough turrets. These SCVs are going to eventually clean it up. Oh, GG.
GG. So, yeah, I was worried about also calling a bit of lag, which I totally understand in this situation. There's playing China in that distance, there's going to be a lot of lag in the game. They're playing TR8. Maybe that's what we're seeing with the lag ourselves. But yeah, unfortunately for Ultra, going to end up dropping this match. Zhanhun taking the match. He's going to advance to the round of 16. And I just want to say, yeah, fantastic matches all the way around. I was especially the Boneth Zhanhun matches were just fantastic. I wish, how do I put this? One day we will be able to have these tournaments in person, and we won't have to worry about problems like lag, or we won't have to worry about problems about like playing back with the stream quality and what feels like 1998, sort of, when Brood War was released level stream quality at times. But in the meantime, guys, be sure to donate so we can get to that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of like being suspended in outer space here with a BSL logo behind us. That was, yeah, just, I don't know, that was an exciting day to kick off the tournament. Of course, this time around Group A, we had Boneth and Zhanhun, kind of the favorites, I would say, going into this group, making it out. And Ultra and Squall being eliminated, but, that's not going to be the last time we see either of them. I'm sure we're going to see them both back here in the next seasons. But yeah, I think the results were as expected, Diggity. And, there's still some BSL tomorrow. There's Group B tomorrow. That's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, we're back with Group B tomorrow. I am really excited to see that match. We've got Crossy in the bracket. That's the guy. So out of the players that, I have favoritism. North American Crossy, I'm hoping sneaks through that. We got Goku, the up-and-comer, going up against Avilov, who has already stated, like, yeah, I'm going to do creative builds. So look out for it. And the champ, the guy who is maybe a favorite, one of the favorites to go all the way to the finals, Dawid. So it's going to be an intense match. That's approximately, 20 hours from now, same time tomorrow. And then, of course, BSL's back. We got a lot of action coming down the line. And yeah, should be exciting. Do you have a particular player, aside from yourself, obviously, getting into the final, where you're like, I'm rooting for this person? Or is it just like, are you just like, nah, I'll just stay out of it as far as like...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's, I think it's always, even if you're a player, you're still kind of interested in how people are going to do. For example, I would like to see Cross do well, because I think he hasn't had a showing in the BSL that is kind of reflective of his actual skill level. And outside of that, I mean, I'm excited to see how good the Chinese players are. I think Zhanhun today showed some excellent games. Again, Boneth is no joke. I mean, this guy is like insanely good at PvP. So that's, there's no shame in losing to him. But outside of that, Zhanhun kind of showed very, very high level regardless. I mean, True Touch is back, so that's also exciting. That group, True Touch, Hawks, SPX, and Duck, that is a really exciting group for me. And yeah, I can't say I have one player that I'm looking at. I'm like, you know, aside from Cross, maybe I'd like to see him do well. But I don't know. This season has like a really awesome lineup of players.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the side routing for Cadenzi because of the 80s mullet server connection there. Jaeyoon's a friend of mine, and I've mislabeled Artosis's MMR range over California burritos with that guy, so definitely got to root for him. Obviously rooting for all of the North Americans just because of that North American bias that's always going to come in. But yeah, as far as that though, I really want to see Zeke make a run at it, because it felt like last season he was playing really, really well. This season, like looking at his level of play recently, he's playing out of his mind. And it's been a while. True Touch, I think, was the last Zerg champ we've got. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes in. In the meantime, want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. We've got Esports Fund, Optimunk, a new sponsor, and of course, all of our patrons listed down below. Be sure, everybody, to join in. And yeah, honestly, today, I think a lot of the problems were due to some computer malfunctions. And with more funding, the more we can start stabilizing a lot of this stuff. So this is kind of one of those things where, you know, we're the Brood War community. We can handle this sort of thing, right? We're kind of accustomed to scraping through and making it work. And so, yeah, but it would be great if we could just say that, you know what, the funding's taken care of. Zero can do this full time and we don't even have to worry about it. So be sure to, thank the sponsors, check them out, check out Optimunk. Special thanks to Esports Fund again, as always. And in the meantime, be sure to donate, subscribe, drop bits, drop donations. And it's been from there. Is there anything else we need to cover actually before signing off here?
I think for now, people kind of know what's up. And, you know, this was the first day. So we'll get back into the groove of things. Obviously, the first couple days are going to always be a bit slower, let's say. But, you know, by the time we're in the round of 16, all these kinks will be ironed out and we'll be ready to go. But yeah, Diggity, it was a pleasure casting with you today. Well, you know, I'm sure we'll see you back here at the desk soon. Hopefully. For sure. We have such a sick lineup of casters, guys. So we're going to have a really awesome rotation this season. But yeah, for today, that's going to be it. Group A concluded with Bonnet and Zhanhun advancing. Tomorrow, we're going to have Group B. So same time, same place. And that's about it, man. See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, see you guys tomorrow. I have a lot of love still. Take it easy, everybody.